Alright guys, welcome to LoWdown this week. We are theming this one as Champions in memory of Night of Champions. Big welcome to everyone that's here, Rensis, Krista, Fake Skeletor, and Chris. So we're going to be just going over the usual topics, but first I want to start off with a couple of news stories from this week. Let's start off with a big one. Roman Reigns is out of action due to a hernia. Now, as drastic as that might sound, hernias can be painful, so I won't mock too much about how that's gone down. But, guys, how do you feel about this? Do you feel this is going to be a big problem for creative? Do you think this is a chance that they've missed out? Do you think he can pull back from this? What are your thoughts? Chris?
Do I feel that it's bad for Roman Reigns? Yeah, I mean, anytime you're about to get a push and you get injured, it sucks. There's no denying that. I don't think anyone can deny that. As to whether or not it's going to affect creative, I very much doubt it, because creative seem to have a way to mess things up even when the superstars are okay. In terms, I do feel that it showed something on Monday Night Raw, though, which is something I want to talk about later.
Okay. Fake Skeletor, what's your thoughts?
It's both a positive and a negative. I guess. I mean, of course, you never want to see anyone get injured, but the way it seems that he'll be back at Royal Rumble. So, you take him off for a few months, you let him be out of sight, out of mind, and then you bring him back to a huge pop. Win the Rumble, everyone's happy. They're not going to get that chance for the fans to turn on him.
No, I'm going to hit on that later because that's going to be a very big point of this show. So I'm glad you brought up Rumble.
But it seems like they've already found someone to retake his place. So
Ambrose cough.
Yeah.
That's what I want to talk about later.
Yep. So when he returns, they're going to have two guys ready for the main event. So, wow. Who'd have thunk it? Yeah.
I know.
So positive and negative. Yep.
And Krista, what's your thoughts on this finally?
Well, I do feel bad for Reigns for having a hernia because it sucks. They are painful. I would say that it's probably not going to hurt creative or Reigns. It doesn't matter. I think him coming off TV might be the best thing that ever happened because, again, he can return at Rumble or whenever he's cleared to return, and he'll come back to a huge pop, which will basically put him in good stance to kind of pick up whatever storyline they have for him without really missing.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's obviously a long situation where he can come into this, and hopefully in the long run it'll fix him up, but we can only hope. Moving on to another story that we've had from this week, talking about injuries. It seems that Ric Flair has healed up, and that he will be on the Mexican leg of the WWE tour. This is just personal opinion, and a lot of people may be disappointed by this, but I feel at his age, maybe going on tour is not the best idea. Like, it's a lot of physical work. People were saying on the last tour he was struggling to count a pinfall. So, again, guys, what's your thoughts? Is Ric Flair too old to be touring?
Having Ric Flair in Mexico is just a terrible idea, no matter what his age is.
Yep.
Woo!
Yeah. That's what he's going to be doing all night long.
I think that Ric Flair is getting to the point where he needs to seriously consider hanging up the boots.
Yeah, I think that happened about 7, 8, maybe 10 years ago.
Popular viewpoint, but I really think a lot of the legends that they have on are getting a bit too old and along in the tooth to be doing any kind of spots. Absolutely have them signing, at signings that's fine, but to have them actually be on tour with the rest of them, it's just, I think the grind is just too hard for them. And I really think that he should just be not touring.
I agree as well. I think Flair is a bit past his prime. I think that's a bit of an understatement. We do have Rensis with us, but Rensis will be muted, so I know hopefully. Rensis, are you there? Maybe answer this question for us. No?
Yeah,
Cool.
but I gotta step up.
Ah, there he is. Cool. How are you finding the things with Ric Flair? Do you think Ric Flair in Mexico is a good idea? Cool. Okay,
Yes,
we'll move on
he
from there.
thinks it's the best idea ever.
He does. I love that.
Another,
That's a really good idea.
since we have fake Skeletor here, another piece of news. WWE have managed to screw up the Sting DVD.
I was so glad that was the next point I was going on with our news. Thank you. Great minds think alike.
Hey.
Why do they have to mess up everything I love?
Well, I don't know how they've managed to mistake the NWO Sting for actual Sting. Like, that's a pretty significant screw up to make and stick on the back cover of your DVD.
Is it Lee Farmer or is it Jerry Farmer? But anyway,
Jerry, I believe.
he ended up playing fake Sting over in Japan at NWO. And he is huge compared to Sting. Like, the guy is buff. Like, Sting was toned, but this guy is pretty bulky.
Built like a brick
very
shithouse.
unusual. What was that, Krista?
He said he's built like a brick shithouse.
He is indeed. Bye, PG. Goodbye.
Sorry.
And he looks nothing like Sting. So
He doesn't.
No.
The only time he does is the fact he has long black hair.
And the face paint, that was literally it.
Mhm.
It's a shame as well.
And I date a guy with long black hair, so like that's not a distinguishing characteristic.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's a complete shame, really, because, you know, this DVD has been long awaited by a lot of fans, and WWE managed to mess it up. And do you know how they messed it up? They left one man in charge. They left one son, one devil's favorite demon in charge, and he
No.
ruined everything.
Speaking of one son,
Just leave him alone.
speaking of
I have one favorite wrestler, and you guys always have to make fun of me. I hate this place.
Speaking of one son, you guys heard about Paul Bearer's son, right?
Indeed, yes. That's a very unfortunate situation. It's very unusual circumstances, too.
Yeah, I mean, he was quite young, you know.
He was only 34, I believe.
Yeah,
Yes, he was.
it's an absolute shame when you think about within the past like 6 years, Paul Bearer's wife, Paul Bearer, and one of his sons have died. You know, that's harsh.
It is. It's a very unusual situation, but obviously, and sadly, these things do happen, and hopefully, the son that's left and his brother are okay, and they can move on from it. But that's getting the morbid side of things out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
In good news, we finally got to see, as much as Krista doesn't really care, we finally got to see a little bit of a gameplay trailer for the new WWE game, which sadly wasn't actually a gameplay trailer.
No, but it had a badass music though, so you know.
Well, as I would tell you as a music student, music fixes everything. Unlike Kane, who ruins everything, hashtag that and get it trending.
Hashtag Kane ruins everything.
Just leave him alone. I hate this place.
You know, I'm going to have to tell everyone that we have an impersonator on store today.
Sorry, guys. It sounds kind of terrible today. I have a little bit of a sore throat, so yeah. It doesn't sound as good. I was listening back on the first show, and yeah, the first time I did it, it did sound pretty fantastic.
Yeah, it did.
Man, if there are any Homestar Runner fans listening, they're gonna be cracking up at that. I mean, it sounds just like one of those like Homestar characters.
Do you know what, Rancis? Seeing as you're here, would you please give us your fashionista tips of the week?
You put me on the spot a little bit. I don't really have one off the top of my head. I will try to prepare one for later in the show because I vaguely recall some curious gear choices. I don't remember if it was Night of Champions or Raw. There was one that I do recall now that I've kind of talked in circles for half an hour.
Did
We'll
it have
do
to do with the
regale us.
scarf?
Big Slow gave the inductor into the Hall of Pain a nice new singlet, and we
And
now
scarf.
have yes, and a scarf in memory of Alberto Del Rio.
May his
we
career rest in peace.
What
I miss
career?
Alberto. I miss Bertie. But Henry has now been molded into a character that's supposed to be this sort of all-American character. I know he was an Olympian, I get that, but this is completely out of the blue. Has he ever played like an American hero type gimmick before? I don't think he has.
No.
When he debuted, kind of.
Yeah, but that was for the whole of about 4 months, maybe, and then he became part of the Nation of Domination.
Right, and that was just more of because he was an Olympian.
Mhm.
But from what I remember, though, that is where the scarf originated. So.
But I must say the red scarf was rather dapper.
Damn right it was.
It was dapper. All he needed was a monocle, and he would have been made.
There's an image.
Mark Henry with a monocle and a scarf. Book it, Russo. Book it.
Bump, bump,
We have a Russo in our group now, a Russo RP. So, hey, Russo RP, dude in the clown outfit, get on it.
Dude in the clown outfit. Great.
That doesn't sound scary at all.
That's terrifying.
I
someone,
hate
yeah, someone in a clown outfit dressing as, well, talking like Russo. No one needs that. I
We don't
love
need
Russo,
clowns.
but I hate clowns.
We don't need clowns, period. Thank you.
No, we don't.
I'll just
Tell you what. Oh, okay. You just leave. You cry your tears, sad clown. You cry your tears. Do you know what I will say is Night of Champions actually surprised me. I haven't watched Night of Champions, that has really surprised me as a show. I felt this Sunday was actually really good. Like I wouldn't say it's mind-blowing, but I'd give it at least a 7.5 out of 10.
I feel as
Night
though
of Champions?
Yeah.
I'd give it a
Are we talking
7.
about the same pay-per-view?
I liked it too, so don't worry.
What?
To be fair, I feel as though that entire pay-per-view they were trying to make up for the fact that Reigns wasn't there.
Yeah,
I
screw
think-
that guy. He's old news.
Okay, Krista, what was your thoughts on Night of Champions?
For the part that I saw, because I ran into technical difficulties again.
Always the Canadians with their technical difficulties.
Yeah, no kidding. Considering I'm too cheap to pay for an actual pay-per-view. So I find other ways.
They still have dialogue there, so.
Yeah, you wish. It wasn't as great as it could be. Night of Champions, it should be like a big deal because all the championship belts are up, and it was just kind of,
Yep.
It was good points, but it wasn't. It was actually kind of boring.
Okay.
I'm a notoriously tough grader, so for me, 7.5. To me, 10 is hands down the best wrestling show you've ever seen, and you can't imagine them ever doing it that well again. A 9 is one of the better WrestleManias. An 8 is a really, really, really high quality off WrestleMania pay-per-view. So for me, when I hear 7.5, that's a super high grade for me.
For me, I'd give it a 7 or an 8, but to me, a 10 is something that fully has my attention, fully, I'm happy with everything. I've got no issues with anything that happened on the show kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a different. That to me, that's an 8. What you just described is an 8.
Yeah, to me that's a 10. Like, I don't expect to have an absolutely blow away, fantastic performance ever because, there's always going to be something on the card you don't like, so if they do manage to get it so nothing's wrong, well, they've done their job.
Okay, well, let's put it this way. There was only 2 matches that, when I watched it back, that I fast-forwarded through. And sadly, that was Rusev and Henry. Like, I was expecting a lot from that match and got very little from it. And then the Divas match as well. The triple threat.
Even that match delivered.
I didn't mind that.
It wasn't offensive.
That to me was one of the better matches on the card.
That match wasn't even offensive, which just goes to show you this was a good card. So, yeah, I'm on board. This was a 7.5 show. Everything delivered.
They're the only ones that I fast-forwarded through, so that tells you that the rest of the card must have been pretty damn good.
Yeah, it was super solid in ring the entire night, except for the finish of the main event, but, whatever.
Put me down for like a 6, man.
A 6,
there you
okay,
go.
that's cool.
There you go. See, that's high praise from you. So, yeah, this was a good show.
Yeah, for me, 6 is a solid grade.
Yeah. See, this was a solid show.
Do you know what my favorite match of the night was? Easily was Sheamus Cesaro.
That one was pretty good.
It was a good match, but Sheamus still needs more character. I loved how hard hitting the whole thing seemed, but Sheamus's character kind of dragged him down a little bit.
Yeah, I thought Cesaro outshined him actually, which it shouldn't happen because Sheamus is so much more accomplished, so much more experienced in WWE, and has been in so many more big matches in WWE. But Cesaro really, to me, was showing more star quality throughout the match.
They're letting Cesaro use his face moveset, so, I mean, read into that what you will, but, I mean...
I very much think that, Cesaro definitely outshined Sheamus. I don't think there's anyone that can really... Obviously, people are going to disagree, but I can't see why. A good match, a lot of reversals in it. There were a lot of moves that I wasn't used to seeing, which was nice. But yeah, it was a side match.
I tell you, talking about moves that you haven't seen, speaking of Cesaro and Sheamus again, there was a moment on Raw during the tag match where Sheamus came off the apron and Cesaro swung him to the floor. That looked absolutely brutal, and I haven't seen that done in ages. I thought it was a really nice touch.
Yeah, I tweeted that to ask if anybody had ever seen that in WWE last night, and no one had. So you're saying that you had seen that before?
Yeah, it was never in WWE though.
Oh, okay. That was frightening. I gasped when I saw it. That's one of those moments. See, that's the kind of thing that I wanted to see on the pay-per-view.
Okay. That makes sense, I guess. I mean, you expect the bigger spots on pay-per-views because you're paying to see them.
Yeah.
But,
I wasn't impressed with them throwing some of the... I'd rather have seen a rematch of Cesaro and Sheamus than seen a 6-man tag match on Raw. I was kind of disappointed by that.
Well, you can only do so many rematches from the previous night.
Is what it's alluding to, though, isn't it? I mean, easily that's what it's alluding to come Hell in a Cell. You're going to have Sheamus versus Cesaro and the Usos versus Goldust again.
Of course.
Speaking of 6-man, where's Bray Wyatt?
Yeah. This is something that's really hacking me off, actually. Obviously, he can't be on every show. This was the first pay-per-view he's missed since, what was it, last year? Hell in a Cell last year?
Yeah, but this is a healthy scratch, so he can't be on every show. Why?
Because they have nothing for him. That's the sad thing. Yeah, it's sad. They've got nothing for him. I really like Bray Wyatt. He's my favorite guy currently in WWE. But they have nothing for him, and they really messed up there.
How can you not have something for one of your 4 or 5 most talented guys?
The problem with Wyatt, I can understand him not having something for Wyatt because, to be completely honest, some of his I think you can agree with me here. Some of his promos are kind of getting to be a bit of the same. And
Surprisingly, I don't agree with you.
I don't either.
Let him stretch his legs then, instead of every promo is he's trying to brainwash somebody or whatever. Put him against someone that's actually going to sell it and actually give a shit. It's as much the ratings problem as it is his opponent.
He's supposed to save us, Chris.
It sounds like a douchebag thing, but I'd actually love to see him do something with Heath Slater. Purely because okay, we get the point. But
he's supposed to save us, Chris.
I'd love to see him do something with Heath Slater purely because Slater would sell even the promos, and it'd be awesome.
You know who I want to see him with? In all honesty, after Dolph and Miz are done, I want to see Bray Wyatt take on Miz and have him talk about how he's ugly underneath. He can play the face, Miz can play the heel. It's a good, strong way to get him back on the card to at least do something.
I can already picture the Miz's facial expressions, and yes, it's worth it.
A face turn for Bray Wyatt.
Yes, I think a face turn for Bray Wyatt would work in some ways.
It reeks of desperation.
It does, but that's all
the only way that I could really see them turning Bray face was if he had a match with Lesnar. But yeah.
I mean, I think it would work, at least in the short run, but it does definitely reek of desperation. I don't think you need to turn him face, although there is a dearth of top-level baby faces.
But it's like, could you not imagine him cutting a promo against Brock Lesnar saying the people follow him because they know that he will save them from the beast or whatever. He doesn't necessarily have to be a face in the sense that he always does. He's not happy, he's not friendly, he's still the same character, but just...
It's simple. You bring him out, you say, you may be the beast incarnate, but I'm the eater of worlds. Simple as that.
It's heel versus heel, though.
Right, but that would get him over. But that would be so cool, because both guys are really kind of tweeners. I mean, they're both technically heels, but they get cheered.
Yeah,
but to turn him face at this point and even think about a world title match, no. And who would have thought, like 6 months ago? I'm sure that we were all saying, Bray Wyatt, they strapped a rocket to his back. There's no way they can mess this guy up.
Well, everyone always does that. As soon as someone goes against Cena, it's like, oh, they're going to be really big, and it's like, well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Cena wanted to go with Wyatt to see, if he was ready for the main event, and not sure what the outcome of that really was, but hey.
I'll tell you, if they want to put Bray Wyatt against anyone now, it has to be someone credible, it has to be someone that will sell for him, and it has to be someone that is actually willing to maybe take the brainwash thing a little bit further than it needs to go.
Well,
somebody has to sell it here eventually.
You've mentioned
say Dolph Ziggler until you said that part.
No, you've mentioned The Miz. What would happen if we had Damien Sandow be brainwashed by you have the feud with Bray Wyatt and The Miz, and he brainwashes Damien Sandow?
It's already confusing enough.
It would be too comedy.
So here's my thing with Bray and Cena. When you put a guy with who everybody knows is the real top guy in the company, I don't care if it wasn't the main event of the evening or whatever.
We all know.
Everybody knows John Cena is the number one guy in the company. When you put Bray Wyatt with him, you needed to have a plan as to what you were going to do coming out of Mania. Even if you wanted to have a cool down period and have Bray step away for a little while, that's fine. He doesn't have to be in a massive major feud. But even if you do a squash match at a pay-per-view, like you could have put Bray Wyatt in there against Heath Slater, or you could have put Bray Wyatt in there against Zack Ryder on that card, or on the pre-show. Give him a minute or two to toy with the guy and just torture him.
Well,
that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
The other thing that you've touched on is not having plans, which brings me to the whole idea of Paul Heyman not appearing on Raw, despite the fact that he was advertised to appear, because apparently they don't again, speculation. It's meant to be true. They don't know what to do with Lesnar now. And that to me is really bad booking when you have a guy who's... You
Hey,
have the
Chris,
top...
if you believe they don't know what they're doing with Lesnar right now,
No,
you
I
need
mean for Hell in a Cell. Apparently they don't know what they're doing for Hell in a Cell.
Skip him.
he doesn't need to be there. Just have a #1 contendership match.
Yeah.
I agree with that, but it's the fact that they apparently don't know as of right now, like they don't have a concrete plan.
Okay, so alternatively, you have the #1 contendership the week before.
I'd just have Orton.
I don't think he needs to be there at all. Just like
There,
when Rock had the title, he didn't do the intermediate pay-per-views between Rumble and Mania, did he?
Nope.
yeah, he defended against Punk, right?
Did he?
No, he lost it. He lost it to Punk. I mean, he won it from Punk at Rumble, right?
The Rumble, yeah. Then I could have swore he had his rematch, didn't he? Didn't Punk have his rematch at
Yes.
Elimination Chamber?
Was it Elimination Chamber or was it the next night on Raw?
It was a triple threat.
Oh,
No.
I think it was a triple.
No, was it a triple threat or was it...
I don't remember. To the Google Mobile.
To Google.
He didn't do a whole lot between winning the title and dropping the title at Mania. Is what I'm getting at. And I think they can do the same thing with Brock Lesnar. He's a big enough star that him, just cutting a few promos and looming over Hell in a Cell is enough. He doesn't actually need to have a match.
Well, they already have a big enough main event with potentially Rollins and Ambrose. I mean, that seems like that's going to be the main event, right? That's going to be Hell in a Cell.
I want that to be the Hell in a Cell match.
But
I don't
ready
think
to be the headliner at a pay-per-view?
Yes, because that match is a fantastic. It might not be the main event story, but it is the best match on the card.
I agree
It
with
is the
Francis.
main event story.
I don't think it'll
Seth
be the main
Rollins is the
event
biggest
match.
heel in the company right
Okay, it's the main event story now that Reigns is gone.
Rollins
It's
is
the
not
main
the biggest heel in the company.
He is.
The way they
No,
played him
Rollins
off
is not.
last night.
Rollins is not the biggest heel in the company.
Who is?
It's Brock Lesnar by 500 miles.
You had one mention of Brock Lesnar last night. Seth Rollins was all over that show, being chicken shit heel and reveling in it.
That doesn't mean he's the biggest heel.
Even if I go along with you and say he's a high-end heel, I'd say Rollins is probably the #3 heel in the company, and I'd say even with all of the injuries, Dean Ambrose is maybe the 3rd or 4th babyface.
How?
4 versus 3.
No.
4 versus 3 does
Hold
not
on.
equal main event of to build a pay-per-view.
Who are the bigger heels and who are the bigger faces?
Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton have to be slotted ahead of him.
No, not Orton.
They have to be.
Orton is not on any way, shape, or form.
They are. I mean,
They're not.
No,
they okay. Well, I mean, I don't want to be disagreeable about it, but Randy Orton right now, I mean, who main evented Monday Night Raw was Orton and John Cena. Orton right now, I mean, we're talking about a guy who's a Hall of Famer. I know that these other guys are up and coming, and I love them too. Believe me, you guys know I love the Shield guys, but they're not quite at the level where I think main eventing a pay-per-view is good for the company or good for them.
what was the overarching story though? The overarching story was
I think the ideal
was
spot
Cena
for
and
them is number 2.
Ambrose.
I think the ideal spot for them is allow them to steal the show. Don't make them don't. We know it's going to be the best match on the card, but don't build a whole pay-per-view around them. Put all the pressure on them. Make them the number 2 match.
But give them I'd say at least give them the Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, do Hell in a Cell with them. Make them the number 2 match, and then let the super, let the old school Hall of Fame guys be the main event. Cena and somebody, I don't know who, but Cena and somebody main events.
Please don't say.
Don't put too much. Don't overly pressure them when you don't need to.
So who do you
I say
put?
sinker.
Who do you put?
I say
Cena
sink or
with?
swim. So
Do you have Cena versus Kane for the 8,000th time, or Cena versus Orton for the 9,000th time? Because it's people don't want to see that. I don't think they do.
I know I don't.
Okay,
unless they're putting that in a cell, or unless you want to make it a tag team Hell in a Cell.
you mind if
Or
I
maybe
step
even
in?
an
Ambrose and Cena.
I'm going to step in
Have
here and say,
Ambrose, Cena versus Rollins and Orton.
yep, I'm going to
Something
step
like
in
that.
here and say, it doesn't matter what people want.
Yeah, I think
It
Hell in a
matters
Cell works
what-
better for singles.
Alright, that's fine, but
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I would say Ambrose and Rollins, they close out the show. Sink or swim.
I think Craig
I mean,
is going for
you
the
gotta
rock sound there.
dear God, no. Craig's going for the honest
I
sound.
mean,
It
you know,
doesn't matter
you
what
gotta
people
let
want
these
to see.
guys rise up the card somehow.
It
So
doesn't matter
why not
what
put them
you
in the main
think.
event?
Oh, it's killing me.
Why not put them in the main event of an off pay-per-view? Why
Because
not?
they're not going to be in the main event. They're mid-card
You
guys.
already
at the
have our
moment. They're
$9.99. It's not like pay-per-view buys are going to suffer.
And that's a
You're-
damn good point.
Yeah. Why
It's
not?
all
I
dependent.
honestly
I mean,
think
they're already booking like WCW, so you know, might as well.
You see, I feel that if Triple H was in charge, we would get that match, but because it's Vince, we'll get Cena.
Okay, I'm going to jump in, finally, and say it doesn't matter what people want. Because
Probably.
right now, Ambrose and Seth
What the
We're
top?
off topic here.
and very much like
Yeah, what was the
old-
topic?
No, wasn't it?
Bray Wyatt.
But I'm going to finish this damn sentence.
Yeah, I think
It was Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt, Paul Heyman not being on the show. Gotcha.
Yeah, that
but
was it.
those two weren't on the show, but a bunny was. And that is my heat of the week, is that there was a bunny on the show.
on that note, let's
No Paul Heyman. Barely a mention of Brock Lesnar and no Wyatt family.
on that note, what are our poppin' heats for the week, even including the pay-per-view and Monday Night Raw?
Let's save those for later. I want to cover some
My pop of the week that goes
Can no one hear
to Mark Henry for his performance during the national anthem. Him having
no
his
one
hand
hear
over
me?
his heart and a tear trickling down his face. Oh, that
think-
warmed the cockles of my heart. Give that man an award. Love that man.
I'm not sure that Paul can hear you. Paul, can you hear Craig?
No, I can't.
Knocking
damn,
on.
that would be useful. Right, can you guys drop out and come back in, please, Rancis, if you can
One
let us know.
second.
Yeah.
Technical difficulties for those who are in our audience. We're going to take a minute and reset, and we'll be right back.
Thank you. Basically, guys, if anyone can still hear me, can I get a quick heads up? Can anyone hear me now?
I can hear you, but the rest of them can't.
Chris, can you hear me?
I can now. I just left and rejoined.
Right, okay.
I'm going to have to rejoin as well because I can't hear anything. 1 second.
Alright, I believe in you.
Can you hear me?
Paul, can you hear Chris now?
No, he couldn't. Right. I'm going to get this sentence out while everyone's gone and coming back. The reason you won't get Ambrose and Seth at the top of the card is because, much like days of old, the best match of the night will be the second last of the night.
Yeah, that's what I was calling for too. I just don't think you want to. I don't think you want to put that much pressure on two guys who are ascending mid card guys, but they're still mid card guys.
I think it's important to have guys that are hungry for the main event now. I mean, you know, you look at some of the people. I mean, you look at Orton and Jericho. I felt like some of the moves in Orton and Jericho's match on Night of Champions were appalling because you could tell that they weren't that bothered by some of those spots. They just didn't. They weren't putting 100% effort into it. Ambrose and Rollins put 100% effort into everything. I think it would be good for everybody else in the company to see what it looks like when you have two guys that are hungry for it in the main event of a pay-per-view.
Okay,
See,
Chris.
I thought Orton and Jericho was the match of the night.
I thought it was a really good match, actually.
I thought it was a good match, but I felt like some of the stuff like running the ropes felt very...
Let me put it this way to you. The whole way to sum this up: if you're a baker with a known recipe, and you know you make good bread, do you risk changing your ingredients just because they're new, and hope that you're going to make good bread, or do you stick with your faithful, and then offer that as a side product?
But when you've got something that has more flavour to it, why not?
Oh, I like that you stuck with the analogy.
I'm glad it's not me this time. Go for it.
Yeah, do you know what? I think the whole thing with Ambrose and Rollins is very much like back in the day you used to get Angle versus Jericho, and they would, like, I'm not saying main event, they would co-main event the B pay-per-views. Like, you look back at Triple H versus Jericho in the Last Man Standing, But that was back in Fully Loaded 2000. There were 3 matches that they were calling main events. Like, WWE referred to it as a triple main event pay-per-view. And they weren't. 2 of the matches definitely were not main event stature. But that didn't matter. So if you want to look at Hell in a Cell as having 2 main events, that's fine.
In that case, it needs to be booked as having 2 main events and not just be told, oh, he's main eventing this and Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins have a match. It needs to be said that this is a double main event. They are in one of the main event matches of the night.
I don't think it needs to be said. I think the fans will decide for themselves.
Yeah, and I hear you on that, and this is kind of one of my pet peeves. I understand booking as dual main events and all that sort of stuff, but the match that goes on last is the main event.
That's
the other ones are mid card.
I don't think it's mid card. I don't think there's only one main event necessarily, because you used to have matches where there were 2 good matches for 2 titles at the last thing, like the one we had the World Heavyweight Championship and the WWE title. I wouldn't necessarily say the World Heavyweight Championship was only a mid-card title. It wasn't. It was still a main event title, even though it wasn't the main event.
You just made my point for me.
But it was still a main event.
Mm-mm.
Yes.
The last match of the card, main event, main. I mean that it's self-defining, self-explanatory. There can only be one main event.
Yeah, there's only one final match. Yeah.
But in that case, I think it should go to the guys that are hungry for it.
Okay, well, let's agree to disagree and move on for the time being.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you, Chris. I'm with you, Chris. You're not alone for once.
if it required me to be alone on this one.
Let's talk the Bunny.
Oh, God.
I want to talk about the Bunny being in a tag match. After all these nice points we've made about all these stars not being there, or not being mentioned, they put a bunny on the show. Now, where do you think we're going with this Bunny? It's clearly not going to be a big reveal. It's just most likely going to be Darren Young, and I'm not saying Darren Young's not big. I'm just saying it's not going to be a shock reveal that gets a big pop, because it's just going to be another moment in the lower mid-card.
But, ladies and gentlemen, this is just what happened with the Great Khali and Hornswoggle. That's what the Bunny is. He is the modern Great Khali and Hornswoggle. He is on the show to entertain the kids.
Yep.
That nobody else really cares about.
I would say, though, he had a hell of a jumping spin kick.
Oh, yes. I'm not sure exactly who that is. LoWdown. I know Zayn's done it. I know some people say that they thought Tyson Kidd did it. Whoever it is, they are good.
Wait a minute. So you're saying that the Bunny was the Raw general manager?
It should be.
That would make more bloody sense than Hornswoggle, I'll tell you that now.
Yeah, no shit. Sorry.
It's alright, we're not.
No, I think whoever it is, they've spoken about Justin Gabriel doing it too. So, I mean, it could be any of those 3 guys with that jumping kick, but it looked flawless.
On that,
Considering he was in a bunny suit and could barely see, he was doing some good moves.
on that note,
I mean, his one good move.
On that note, I would like to point out that something I've heard from somebody on Twitter is that Kofi Kingston versus Justin Gabriel on Superstars was a good match. I've heard it's worth going out of your way to watch.
I imagine I probably will. It's 2 guys that want to be shown off. So.
Yeah.
And they're both they do both good ring work. I mean, I wouldn't see why it wouldn't be good.
Tread carefully, Rensis will step in and yell at you about Kofi being stale.
Stale.
You stale.
The same
Get him
argument
off my TV.
made for Cena.
Yeah, but Cena sells tickets.
Hold on,
There's a
he-
difference, and I'm a huge Kofi fan.
Wait,
I like Kofi too.
Cena showed some range here in the past month or so. So, I mean, we get to see a little bit of aggressive side from him.
Do you know what changed about that? He got
But-
black
So
shorts.
Flash
But yes,
fan.
He's still
You know-
stale, though.
You know what changed about that? He got to work with Paul Heyman. That's what it was.
And he got black shorts. The black shorts change everything.
Ladies
Yep,
and
this is the black shirts.
being mildly serious when he's in the ring now.
I actually did like the Stay Calm T-shirt for Cena. That was half decent.
Which one, sorry?
The Stay Calm T-shirt.
All right, yeah.
The one he wore on Raw.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I think I'll tell you what, we've ranked Night of Champions. How would you rate Raw last night? Chris, I know you're still watching most likely, but Krista, what would you give Raw out of 10 last night?
For me, I would say the 6.5.
I was going to say anything above a 5 and you're a liar.
I was going to give it a 3.
I'm only saying I'm being generous. I am being generous. Because, like, the whole one night title switch between Miz and Ziggler, that was dumb.
Yeah, we're going to move on to that in a second.
It's just, I'm being generous. Because if I was going to be brutally honest, I would say a 4.
Fake Skeletor. What about you, man?
Yeah, I'm giving this a 5. I mean, it was a very average show, but it did showcase Ambrose, Rollins. It showed them it kind of put the spotlight on those two. So, and plus, there was a couple good matches, a few too, and the rematches weren't overly done. It was a show. It was nothing, truly memorable, but at least we got to see Dean Ambrose do magic. So that was pretty nice.
Chris, are you still watching it? How are you finding it?
I've watched it. I give it a 3.
A3.
I thought it was I think it was terrible, and you can blatantly tell that was not planned at all. All they've done is they've thrown Ambrose in Reigns' position. They don't really... From what I've read as well, they were writing the show as the show was happening, and
this is WCW booking. This is what WCW used to do.
Yeah, but
it's not good.
After watching Raw, you can tell that it's just terribly written. There's just they've thrown it together absolutely last second. There's been no progress in stories. We've had. I literally feel like the only reason that the title was won. The IC title was won was so something happened on the show, because nothing else really did happen.
You saw Ambrose and Cena work together a little bit, but other than that, you're right.
We've seen Ambrose.
That was it, and you get to see, Ziggler and Miz. They continue their thing with a needless title change.
Rusev Henry seemed silly. Rancis, what were your thoughts on Raw last night? You're Mr. Harsh Marker.
Well, shock of all shocks. I don't understand the harshness. I gotta tell you, from my vantage point, there's precious little to separate Night of Champions from last night's Raw, other than Brock Lesnar wasn't on it, which of course you have to take points off of that. But I thought it was a solid Raw. I mean, I guess what it was is my expectations for a pay-per-view are way higher than they are for Raw. So I'd give both shows the same grade. You don't have the special attraction in Lesnar because it's not a pay-per-view, but I thought Raw was actually done better overall than the pay-per-view was.
Okay. I gave pay-per-view a 7.5 or a 7 to a 7.5. I would give Raw at most a 5. I felt, like Renzo said, although the matches were mostly the same, I felt that the matches on Raw were a bit short. They seemed a bit rushed. Like Chris said, everything seemed thrown together. The stuff with the titles really bugged me, although there is some logic in it. Don't all be afraid yet. People that are listening, there is logic in that. As far as the Divas go, the segment with the Bellas was painful to watch, but there's nothing new there. That's just a typical Raw segment with the Bellas now. Rusev Henry was different. That could have happened on the pay-per-view, though, and probably should have. As far as that goes, other than Ambrose Cena and Rollins, nothing exciting really happened.
You get the Cesaro Sheamus spot on Raw. You got a title change on Raw. You had Ambrose and Cena standing tall for the first time together.
So,
Well, I mean, they did it as a Shield too, but just the two.
So
of them
basically,
standing tall.
what you've basically just said is one spot, one title change, and
You interrupted
Ambrose
me.
with Cena makes the card.
I wasn't finished. There's more. I think that there were 7 or 8 things that I liked about Raw in comparison to an average Raw. For the pay-per-view, I thought most of what they did on the pay-per-view was average, if not subpar, for a pay-per-view. So when I compare the two, I'd give them roughly this. I give both of them a 6 for that reason.
Okay. I think that's fair when you analyse it like that. I mean, we all have different ways of rating things on this, so until we finally work out a system of what's hot and what's not, then there's no way that we can do this together.
Oh, my system's better, obviously.
I do have a question about that, though.
Oh yeah.
In lieu of, how people felt about Night of Champions, do you think that the WWE is suffering from being pay-per-view heavy?
Yes and no.
I think they're suffering from the loss of about 20 Hall of Famers over the last 7 or 8 years out of the business, and currently they're down at least 5 guys off the top of my head who are main event level guys. That's what I think that's where I think the real problem is.
I feel like the real problem is they don't have enough opposition. I feel like if they had competition, they would step up their game, which is why NXT steps up their game, because they're trying to compete with Raw.
Let me oppose that by saying, if you had available to you every week Brock Lesnar, The Rock, The Undertaker, Kurt Angle, Batista, Triple H, Rey Mysterio, Flair. I mean, if you had everybody that's Edge, if you had everybody that's been available, Shawn Michaels, for the last 20 years, the show would be a lot better. I don't care if there was competition or not. I think we got. Well, let me finish the point here. I know I'm rambling a little bit, but let me finish the point. I think we got spoiled because there was an era where everybody who was ever great in the business was available to us at the same time. And as that has filtered out, you're now left with guys who are not quite as good. They're much better in the ring, but they don't have the level of star quality. And it's especially bad now because even the guys that they have built over the last few years, Punk and Bryan and Reigns and others, even they're not available. So we're left with basically John Cena and AAA guys. And not AAA as in Mexico, I mean AAA like in comparison to American baseball. So it's just a tough situation. There's a lot of talent that is off the board for it.
But you can have all the talent in the world, and if you're writing the show badly, and if it's lazy writing like last night was, I don't care who's on the show, it's going to be a bad show.
Okay, I say there is creative issues. I'll let you talk first.
I say it's more of a creative issue than a talent issue. I mean, they've shown the unique inability to build stars.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
If you had if you had Austin, you wouldn't even need a writer. Austin could keep a crowd entertained with no writer, just ad lib.
But nowadays they would hand him a card and try and tell him what to say, like they did with Punk.
Yeah, they did that when he was there, and he tore it up and threw it away.
And there's not enough of those guys there now.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's not the talent per se; it's the creative.
Paul, you just made my point precisely. There's not enough of those entertaining guys who are available today. Exactly what I was trying to get.
I can sum it up in 2 words: self-preservation.
Yep.
Explain.
I got you. People are comfortable with their spot.
And I can
they don't take chances.
And I can explain that is that In these times, it's all about job security. So the writers aren't willing to push against conformity because they're afraid they'll be out of a job. The wrestlers, because they all buy into the you have to eat a banquet of crap.
These sports entertainers, by the way.
For whatever. Talents. Okay, we'll go with the in-ring talent. And the commentators, they will all willingly eat banquets of crap in order to keep their jobs.
But this is what I agree with, and this is a quote that was taken from the multiple times from the Attitude Era, was there were that many people fighting for spots that everybody stepped their game up because they wanted the spot. You don't have that hunger at the moment on the roster. The only people that have that hunger, I would say, are Ambrose and Rollins and possibly Reigns and Wyatt.
Okay, I'll step in here and say, while obviously there are creative issues, there are issues with talent as well.
Yep.
In that, in the Attitude Era, when you look back and look at all the shit they filtered through, I mean, like the bad stories, because there was some, like Naked Midian, Naked Midian, Mae Young, there's a load of them. The talent went out of their way, talented or not, to push the story product. Because if your fans are invested in the story product, they won't care about the wrestling as much as you'd think.
Yeah.
But now, the guys are very much a case of, oh, you want me to do what? Oh, I can't do that. Okay, but I'll give it a shot. And then they do it half-assed. The one guy that really sticks out to me, and this might sound a little silly, that sticks out to me as doing that right now is Damien Sandow. They have fed him, like you said, Chris, they've fed him shit for weeks.
Yeah.
And he literally took it, and he served it back to them as steak. Like, he is so good at what he is doing. If every guy on the roster had the same amount of commitment to doing their job as Damien Sandow does, I think the whole product would be better. However, the main issue is that one, we're spoiled, and two, there are 3 hours of Raw. That's 3 hours of product that they are struggling to fill because they don't make the creative issues and they don't take the time to book it properly.
But the issue I then have with that is I also feel that if they had this competition from another company, then they would step the game up.
Okay,
What I was saying.
Hypothetically though, if there's another company, how many of these guys do you think wouldn't just go there straight away if they were given the chance to shine as the top star?
But that's where some of them would. But what you would then be left with is a roster of people that are hungry for it, that want to stay there, that want to put the mark on everything, that want to be the best.
But that's what I'm saying. These guys that are getting the offer of a new company, they're the ones that already want to make their mark. So they're going to go to a new company and instantly make their mark rather than waiting through the piles of shit that Chris is talking about. For instance, if I told you Kofi Kingston or Big E Langston or whoever could go across to GFW with Jeff Jarrett and be made into the top main event star, do you not think they would do that and be the straight big star straight away? So you would lose guys rather than actually gain talent. All that would happen is WWE would lose a handful of talent that they're already not utilizing. So the problem really is the fact that there's not enough stories, there's not enough guys willing to take their time, and there's a third hour of Raw that they're not using correctly.
See, in my mind for Raw, like this is just in my perfect world, the first hour would be the low cards.
Yeah.
And then you'd have like the low to mid card guy main event the first hour. Then you would have the mid card, and then you'd have the mid card to the upper card main event the second hour, and then you'd have the main event guys dominate the third hour. Because that's where they lose their viewers. They lose their viewers in that third hour.
No, I don't think that that's necessarily the case. I think they keep more of a third hour audience than you would expect for the time slot. As you get deeper into the night, you're supposed to lose audience. But here's my question for you. If you book it that way, how do you convince people who buy the advertising? That's who pays the salaries. How do you get people to buy advertising for that first hour?
Yeah, but they don't buy the advertising from WWE. They buy it from the TV network.
Yeah, but if they're getting less people
Well,
watching WWE programming in the
right.
first hour,
I understand that's the through line, but obviously it's the show that they're buying the ad time for. They happen to be buying it from the network, but they're buying it from the network because of the show bringing in the viewers. So if you have a show that's less star-studded in the first hour, nobody's going to want to buy ads for that time. They have to book it the way that they're doing. They have to put stars in each hour. Otherwise, people will stop buying ads. And the money stops coming in.
Fair enough.
I think obviously that we would all book Raw in different ways. But do you know what's interesting? I don't know if you guys have heard this, and I don't know if a lot of our Twitter followers have heard this. If you go over to Vince Russo's Twitter account, he's running a small campaign called Dear Vince, or Please Vince. I can't remember what the name is. But he is running that. And essentially, he is booking Raw every single week, using the talent that's on there for free. He's encouraging tweeters and fans of WWE to use the tag that he provides to tweet their thoughts towards Vince McMahon. And while, Vince McMahon might not pay attention to Twitter, you know that the writers eventually are. So, can fans really make a difference, is what I'm asking you.
Fans made a difference with Brian.
I think they could. They do mention, things that kind of trend on Twitter on the main show. So it shows that they actually do, even on the peripheral, pay attention. Do I think it would lead anywhere? Probably not. I mean, Vince is a megalomaniac. We all know this. The idea is there, but will WWE actually take off on that idea? I would say no.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah, they're not going to change. Yeah, they're not going to change anything because people are, they're sending ideas on Twitter. They don't care. The only way they're going to care is when advertisers start to leave, and when their numbers start to dip below a 2. Until then, it's business as usual. So.
Like, if you haven't watched the Monday Night Wars with them in WCW, the documentary,
that's revisionist history. Don't watch it.
Yeah.
It's revisionist history.
All history it's written by the victors or who is left standing.
Mm-hmm.
But it is interesting.
I'm actually reading, by the way, Vince Russo books Raw, or some of it, and it's interesting because it's better than Raw.
Of course it is. It's Vince Russo. The guy's an absolute star, no matter how much the internet hates him.
This is just an excerpt. This is just an excerpt where he discusses Goldust and Stardust being the new champions. He says they shouldn't have the Usos get a rematch. It should go straight to Goldust and Stardust versus Luke Harper and Eric Rowan because they're fading. What would be interesting to see at the end of the match is to have Goldust and Stardust win, have a blackout with Bray appearing in the ring to assist Abigail, Harper and Rowan to strengthen them up with tough love.
Yeah, well, I mean, that would definitely sell the brainwashing thing that he was reinforcing.
It would help all three of them.
It would push them all massively, and that would, I like it.
Yep. Now the question becomes then, what do you do next week? The thing with Russo, I don't think anybody has ever challenged that Russo's a really, really bright guy, but he tends to book himself into corners because one of the main things that safe booking is made to do is to allow you to do weekly episodic programming. You don't have an off season, and if you book yourself into a corner, now you're gonna have to somehow get a reset somewhere. You're gonna have to ask for a mulligan at some point, and I think that's the complaint that people have about Russo.
Yeah, he needs a filter. He needs someone to be able to tell him no. So, not that he has some good ideas, but not all of them. He needs someone to tell him no.
It's
Triple
called the
H would be the
Dallas.
filter.
It's called the Dallas Principle.
The Dallas Principle?
Yeah, I was
Yep.
gonna say, what do you mean? Well, the
Many
backing yourself into a
people
corner
are,
thing.
you know, remember, and it might be just me. There was a show called Dallas,
Ah, yes.
and they had an entire year where it ended up being all a dream.
Yeah, it was the dog's dream or something.
Yep.
Wow, when you said that, I thought, Biggie, it was all a dream.
Or
And-
they
and I-
elsewhere
and-
where the whole thing took place in a snow globe.
And that is exactly what Vince Russo would do.
Yep.
And yet, strangely, I'm okay with that.
Will you stop?
No, I'm okay with that. On the knowledge that of what I said yesterday in a tweet, and Rents has retweeted it. It's just a show. People need to remember, wrestling is a show. And we watch it as an entertainment thing, not as a, this needs to be real, this needs to be serious. We had Mae Young give birth to a hand. We had Kane
And that whole
Triple H.
sexual chocolate thing. Ugh.
Yeah, we had sexual chocolate. We had Kane and Triple H talking about having sex with a dead body. You had, DX. You had Mae Young flash her boobs at Royal Rumble.
That was real.
Yeah, that was real, sadly. that was the thing you wished it was a dream.
That's the part of doing it, though.
That hand was real. We saw that he grew up.
Yeah, he grew up, and then you had Triple H dropped out of a crane in a car by Stone Cold.
Stone
Yeah.
Cold!
I saw
Stone
that.
Cold!
The Undertaker's been buried alive 4 times.
And he comes
He's
back
technically
every
a
time.
dead man.
Kane was burnt, and then suddenly his face was not
Burnt.
disfigured.
Those were just mental scars. Come on.
He's gone from the mask to the new mask to the mask to the no mask. I mean,
We have Goldust.
He's indecisive.
It was Stardust.
and the slappers around the world.
Come on, he's Dusty Rhodes' son, so that explains itself right there, if you will.
Where exactly is Kofi Kingston from?
Ghana.
I think he's from Jamaica, but he's billed as Ghana.
I think he's
think
no,
he's actually
they're all he's from Syracuse. Get out of here.
And is who's from Hollywood, Florida, and Hollywood, California, and Cleveland? I'm getting confused.
Yes,
Yeah,
pro
me
wrestling.
too. This is
Pro
just a
wrestling.
show, and that's the thing. People forget they can do crazy shit. If they want to get away with that, why not? It's the world of wrestling. There's just people in the crowd watching it. The whole stage is the ring. If they really want to do that, and they wanted to make it seem like a dream, WWE would give it a go if they thought it would sell tickets.
Yeah.
If they thought it would sell tickets. I'm not saying they should. I'm saying if
And
they
then-
thought
I think you did say that they should.
I think you should shut up, sir.
Yeah,
Wrestlers have been reinvented.
Yeah.
I mean, before Stone Cold was Stone Cold, he was stunning Steve Austin.
Oh, you want the best one? We had Kane versus Kane and Taker versus Taker.
Yeah.
And when he first debuted, he was Kane the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, if you really want to look,
People can't change. People can change. I can change. You can change. We all can change.
you already have changed, Skeletor. You've changed, man. Follow up on the ball this week.
All right, so where are we now? We're going in circles here, man.
We're in a
This is
snuggle.
choice. The point
this is-
I'm making.
This
Have we
is
answered
naval.
anybody else's questions that have sent
This
us
is
on Twitter?
this is naval staring at its toilet bowl swirling self.
Question.
Don't worry. None of this is real. It's just a dream. We're all in a snow globe. So
We'll take a question from Twitter and then we'll move on to Pop and Heat. John Tibbs asks, so JBL was mad at Swagger and Henry for losing to Rusev. How would JBL have fared if he got in the ring with Rusev?
The same way, because I mean it's a TV show, man. They book it that way. I mean, if there was a fight between, if there was a shoot fight between Mark Henry and Rusev, I'm putting my money on Mark Henry. So calm down. It's a TV show. Was that mean? Was that mean enough?
yeah, come on. We got to kayfabe it up here a little bit.
Am I playing the heel now?
Yeah, got to kayfabe it up.
No, you're being a babyface.
Okay, so I'll answer the question in character, in kayfabe again. So, to be honest, he said it. Hey, look, I'm a commentator now.
He's got one clothesline left in him, though.
Nah, I mean, even when he did the Royal Rumble, he got in the ring and was immediately clotheslined out. They don't want him taking any more bumps. So
No, he said last night he has one clothesline left in him.
yeah, but he can't take one.
It was a good line.
He'd probably implode if he actually had to take a bump at this point. So
It all depends on how much he's had to drink.
he's playing a heel announcer, dude. He's a heel announcer.
He's a bad one at that.
Chris, what do you think then? JBL, could he take Rusev?
Could JBL take Rusev?
Yeah.
No.
Nope. Krista, JBL take Rusev?
No, and it'd be painful to watch too.
Oh, I think it'd be hilarious to watch. Only if Farouk could be at ringside and shout "damn" every time he looked at Lana.
No, you have to be a handicap tag. I'd be fine with that. You have Rusev destroy them both.
I would not have Farouk in the ring anymore. He's too old.
Yeah, he looks like George Jefferson right now, but that's fine.
Yeah, they're both beyond their in-ring time, and JBL's just talking, man. He's just playing a heel. I mean, you've heard the way that he calls anything that happens with Bo Dallas, right? I mean, he's just playing a character, bro. He's just playing a character.
And you want to talk about Bo Dallas? How much of WWE soured on him?
I don't think they have. I think he's still doing some stuff. He needed to reset a little bit. You know, he kind of played up his stuff that he brought with him from NXT, and now he's feeling his way.
Everybody's got a place on the card, and his card is his place is at the bottom. You know, you need jobbers. You need guys that can take a whooping. So that's a spot. I don't think any of us expected him. Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us expect him to be upper mid card or challenge for a title or anything. So yeah, he's in his spot now. People are dumb.
Yeah, they are. I fully agree. I think that's really sad that people thought that. Anyway, let's move on to this week's Pop and Heat section. Francis, we'll start with you, seeing as you said you might have to pop in and out at times. So what's your Pop and your Heat for this week?
My Heat, I have to get to it first. And this is not going to be pop. Maybe I should save that one for the unpopular, the unpopular comment of the day. So I'll save that one. My pop is going to be for continuing to have the belt on Brock Lesnar. That's going to be unpopular too. But Brock Lesnar is a massive star in an industry where there are very, very few legitimate stars. If they take the belt off of him and put it back on Cena, that would have been a complete disaster. Now, I don't like how they did it. I hate ending a title match at a pay-per-view with a DQ. That feels very, very phony to me. But at least Brock Lesnar still has the title. Okay, so that's my pop. Heat, I've got tremendous, massive heat. I'm gonna do it. I can't save it for my unpopular statement. Tremendous heat on AJ being the champion again, and it's generally hot-shotting titles, which they seem to have come back to. But AJ is not a believable wrestler. She's great technically. I don't have a problem with her. If she weighed at least 100 pounds, right? Maybe. But she is not a believable wrestler at all. Does anybody believe that anything that she does could possibly hurt or be dangerous at all?
Yep.
And it seems to me to be dragging a little bit of the division down. So there's my pop and heat.
Good call. Krista, what's your Pop and Heat for this week?
Well, my pop would be Goldust and Stardust getting nasty and taking that heel and taking on that heel role there to get that bit of nastiness to them.
That really could be. really could be taken a lot of ways there.
Get your mind out of the gutter and let mine flow by. Thank you very much.
My bad.
That would be my pop because they do lend to a natural heel role as opposed to more faces, you know? Because they could be really, really creepy. And my heat, I have to agree with Francis. It's the whole AJ carrying the title again, that whole triple threat match at Night of Champions. Totally pointless. You know, it's dropping the title between AJ and Paige. It's yabba dabba doo. Like, great. And I agree as well. AJ is not, she's a great technical wrestler, but she's not believable in the ring. But she's just not. Especially when she faces off against the bigger girls.
I agree. It's not my heat, but I do agree. I think she's too small. Paul, it's really confusing me that you're looking like Skeletor, but hey.
All right, pop of the week. It will go to Mark Henry for being Mr. USA. Mark Henry, he must have thought of when he was in the Olympics during the national anthem. He had a single tear roll down his face. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. It was touching. He represented America for one night and he failed us. It's okay though. He still got a pop out of me, so loved it. My heat will go to the WCW booking that we've had, where you end a pay-per-view on that BS DQ finish. I mean, they could have ended that. They could have done a double count-out, and I think we would have all been happier. You know, it was one of the worst possible ways that they could have ended that pay-per-view. That bothered me. The flip-flopping of the IC title, just devaluing that title. Flip-flopping the ladies' title. I mean, that's already switched how many times in the past 2 months? So, I mean, build up your belts like they're doing with the World Heavyweight title, whatever it's called. That's becoming prestigious again. You know, Brock Lesnar is giving prestige to that belt. Sheamus has done it with the U.S. title. The Usos did it with the tag titles. Come on, quit with the flip-flopping. Let's get some runs. And quit booking on the fly. I mean, have your show planned out, at least 5 minutes before you go on air. So, yeah, just WCW booking at its finest. I've lived through it once. I don't want to live through it again.
Fair play. And Chris, what's your pop and heat?
Okay, this is also going to be a very unpopular opinion. Don't really have a pop this week.
Lame.
No pop this week. Is it because Zayn wasn't in the bunny costume?
No, I love the fact that Justin Gabriel was in a bunny costume. What looks like Justin Gabriel was in a bunny costume. For those of you who haven't seen it, there is a picture going around of, it's a comparison between when the bunny got up on the top rope and did his spin kick thing to Justin Gabriel's. They are almost identical. So it's a very strong argument that it could have been Gabriel in that costume.
Doesn't matter who's in it now. It only matters who's in it when they do the reveal.
Agreed. I feel like, okay, let me rephrase that then. The heat this week is the booking. Everything, the writing I feel has been absolutely terrible this week. I mean, we had a DQ finish on a main, okay, not a main pay-per-view, but on a pay-per-view, which is meant to be, you're meant to have a reason to watch those, and that ended like a Raw. It shouldn't have happened. You then got Raw, which didn't really progress any stories whatsoever. And the only thing that Raw really proved to me was that Ambrose is a organic star.
I disagree. Well, wait a minute. I can't actually disagree with anything you just said.
Nope.
Okay. So it's unusual to see Francis and Chris agree, but nonetheless.
Better write it down.
Okay, my pop of the week. It seems unusual. My pop of the week was actually seeing. It was the DQ finish, right? Don't hate me for this. The DQ finish was clumsy, it was horrible looking, and it was badly done. However, seeing Seth Rollins tease the cash in, and then having Cena stop him, made me pop.
Two separate things.
I have to admit, I didn't mind it until I liked the idea that it reminded us that Rollins does have the briefcase and Rollins can cash in, because it feels like he hasn't tried it for a little while.
Okay, then, well, my pop then would be Cena preventing Rollins from cashing in. That to me was done well. I enjoyed the fact that I was sitting on the edge of my seat going, he better not actually successfully cash in on Lesnar. I enjoyed it because it made me feel like a mark again for a moment. Like, I just stopped thinking and went, oh my god, this could actually happen.
I did love, I've got to say this about the Rollins thing. The only thing I didn't like about that was Lesnar took an AA, a curb stomp, then was back on his feet 10 seconds later, F5ing Cena.
He's a beast.
It made him look incredibly strong, but it also made the curb stomp look like nothing.
Hold on, Brock kicked out of an FU at 1, so
And
curb stomp's not going to do jack to him.
And he beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania, dude.
Yeah, a curb stomp isn't going to hurt him. From a 200-pound CrossFitter, get out of here.
But the fact that they're making it look like Cena almost beat him with the AA and then...
Okay, and my heat goes to the shit product that they have put on for the last 4 Raws.
Yes, I agree.
The fact is, if you're going to give us 3 hours to watch, at least make 3 hours watchable. There's a difference. You know, you can take 3 hours of TV time, and you can tell us, great, we're going to have 3 hours for you to watch every single week. That's good, but I'm not going to watch if your product's awful. So you have 2 choices, WWE. You either go back to 2 hours, or you start providing better product. And I can sell my left foot and tell you that you're not going to go back to 2 hours because you'll lose money that way. So the fact is, start producing better product or you're going to lose viewers. That was my heat for the week.
On the note of the past 4 weeks, really, it's a shame when I feel like NXT is currently a better product than Raw. That should never be happening.
NXT caters to your needs more than Raw does.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's an hour long. Yeah, and it caters to you, right? Yeah, you're their target audience.
It's also like I've watched this week's Raw in about half hour because there's nothing really to watch.
Yeah, I think that you are a very high end sort of a niche audience.
I'm a story-driven guy.
Yeah, well, you're not the middle of the road fan. You are a hyper fan. You consume so much of the product that you know the difference between a John Cena match and a Seth Rollins match. The audience that Raw is catered to is an audience that really
watches because there's nothing else on.
Might not not watches because there's nothing else on, but they may really not know the difference between a John Cena match and a Seth Rollins match. They don't. They're much more interested in seeing stars than they are interested in seeing the actual in-ring product. Yep. And so NXT is really catered to a supermarket like us, whereas Raw is much more for a more mainstream audience.
And you know what, I find it funny, Chris. I mean, no offense when I say this. You say that you're story-driven when it comes to wrestling, and yet one of your favorite wrestlers at the moment is Sami Zayn, who is very poor at telling a story.
Zayn is my favorite in-ring performer. In terms of storytelling, that's got to be probably Ambrose.
I was praying you were going to say Punk, because then we could have had a double header, but never mind.
At the moment, I'm actually going to say I think Ambrose is one of the better storytellers in the company.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this, guys. You know, a lot of people have been talking recently on Twitter saying, like, you know, Ambrose should be the number one guy. Ambrose should be this. Do you ever see Ambrose being the number one guy?
This is something that I think, was it Rentis or was it Matt touched on earlier? It's the fact that he's an organic star. It's not something Vince has made, so it's not something Vince will push.
I see. That's not exactly where I was going with it. I love Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose is probably behind Bray Wyatt is probably my number 2 favorite guy, favorite male performer in the business right now. Ambrose, I'm not sure if that character works as a top guy, and I mean that with all respect to Ambrose. He is phenomenal. I love that guy.
I
But
completely understand what you're saying. It's
I don't
closer
think
to a
he's
number
top
2.
guy. Yeah,
It's closer to a number 2.
Yep, he could be a very good number 2.
He can be the Punk to Cena.
I think he can be better than Punk, to be honest with you.
Well, but I mean how he's booked. Punk was booked as the number 2 face. Dean Ambrose will be booked as the number 2 face, while Reigns is booked as the number 1.
I could see Ambrose being a very good foil to just about anybody he's put up with.
But what I'm interested to see is we've seen him in singles as a face. I'd like to see him in singles as a heel.
Yep.
Because
There'll be time for that.
Well, yeah, there will. But I'm very curious to see if he's a better heel than face, like Punk was.
Oh, I gotta think that he is. I mean, he just has like a natural heel persona about him to me.
But he hasn't changed. He's still the same guy, even though he's a face now.
Right, yeah, he
the
does,
facial expressions and stuff that he does, he comes across as a heel. It's pretty cool to see though. I really do want to see what they do with him.
Yeah, he's one of the few guys that I'm invested in. You know, I don't find myself gravitating to any guys. I don't have a favorite wrestler anymore, but he's someone that I enjoy to watch.
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
He's someone that you would watch with interest to see
Right.
where his career progression would be, because he is the same person all the time. Like, he's the same character all the time, regardless whether they book him as a heel or a face. He could be more classed as maybe the anti-hero.
And I'm getting to a point where I'm really, I really like, I mark out when I hear the bike rev. I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be good, man.
Yeah, I'm very much the same. I love seeing Ambrose come out. It's awesome.
Jim Johnson is a very, very, very clever man. When you hear the Legion of Doom,
Yep.
The Water Rush,
Yep.
listen to that, and then listen to the Dean Ambrose bike rev. They are the same key.
Yes, I actually.
Yeah, I saw your tweet. It's absolutely spot on.
They're the same key, they're the same noise, they're the same inclination of sound. Because of that, the fans instantly go, "Ooh, what's that?" And they pay attention. He is one of the smartest men in the business.
It's not even that.
Alone.
It's not even that. It's the second it hits, you know exactly who it is and exactly what's about to happen.
So would you say then, in that theory, that Dean Ambrose has a better fitting theme than Roman Reigns at the moment?
Oh, no
Definitely.
doubt, no question.
The problem with Reigns' theme is Reigns' theme does not suit him because it's too high. Like they stepped it up like didn't they alter the pitch like by half step up or something?
Do you get the
it's still
feeling that
holding
he's a
on
shark?
to the Shield. So.
Well, I'm sorry. Do you get the feeling that when Roman Reigns comes out, do you think somebody is about to be destroyed? Because the Shield theme is like Jaws. I don't get that feeling from Roman. When Roman Reigns is the most natural, he's like winking at the girls, and he's like a playboy.
I prefer that character, to be honest.
Me too.
The way I look at him is,
I
he's
don't
the
think
hot
he's a
job.
destroyer.
Yeah, he doesn't feel genuine. He doesn't feel genuine as this complete badass that's gonna Superman punch everyone. It doesn't feel genuine.
I feel like Reigns is one of those people that we've talked before about guys that have, if they change their gimmicks, will be amazing. Reigns, if he goes with that kind of gimmick that we've just talked about, it would be awesome.
Yeah, quit scripting his promos. Let him be himself. I mean, when you see him in regular interviews, when he's not being scripted, he comes off as such a cool guy.
Yeah.
I don't think they're really scripting his interviews.
Well, yeah,
A Knight's Tale. Like, he's a guy trying to be what he's not, and until he gets to be himself, he's going to be boring as hell.
And this, I always go back to the Attitude Era because everyone says it's the golden era. Something that was said again in the interviews was you were always told to put yourself into your characters. That's what Reigns needs to do.
Yeah.
I don't know that he can. I don't see him as a destroyer. You know, when I hear that dun 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 dun, when you hear that Shield music hit, that to me, that kind of music says somebody is about to get hurt, man. And I don't see Roman that way.
You know how I see Roman Reigns? I see him as one of those guys that, you know, comes across as, you know, a smooth operator, and then he turns around and hits you with a baseball bat and smiles at you with that smile, and then you thank him for the experience.
That sounds far too much like you would enjoy that, Krista.
He reminds me of his personality reminds me of The Rock. The Rock. Yeah.
Yep.
To me, he reminds me. He's a little more Kevin Nash in WCW for me, where you know he's laid back, he's cool, but he will totally kick your head off.
Yeah,
you
he's
know?
big
you
daddy
can't compare.
He's
Yeah,
disarming.
you can't compare anyone to The Rock. So.
Yeah. He's disarming in his personality, so that you're kind of lulled into a sense of, you know, what have you, and then all of a sudden he turns on a dime and there you are.
Yeah, let him come out there be cocky because he knows he can beat you. You know,
Yeah.
let him be that guy.
If he was that guy, he'd be a brilliant heel as well.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And still be a heel.
This is where, and I don't want to say this, Vince Russo would probably do a better job booking Roman than WWF.
He'd give him a Veil Venus gimmick. So.
Oh, God.
Even that'd be an improvement, man.
Yeah, he'd be Veil Venus or the Godfather.
But if he was the Godfather, that'd be a lad's gimmick, that one.
I just kind of wish they would give Roman Reigns something different to wear as well. Like, I've got an issue with the vest.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, he needs an overhaul when he comes back because it just feels like, okay, he's the one guy left from the Shield, you know, and he's still holding on to that.
Like, I'm okay with him wearing trousers. I think he looks better in trousers than he does in trunks.
Yeah.
Trousers.
Like, if they want to put him in something, he needs a different top or no top.
I don't think he'll do well with no top. I think he needs a top at least. Because if you notice, what was the pay-per-view where they took off his jacket? It was Evolution versus Shield.
Yeah, Extreme Rules or one of those.
Yeah, one of those. If you notice, they seem to try very hard not to show Reigns with his top off for some reason. And from something that someone said, I have no idea how true this is, he apparently doesn't like it.
Where did you hear that?
He's insecure with his body.
It's not that. I've heard somewhere that he has a scar or something on his chest.
Well, he will now. You'll have one in his stomach anyway.
Well, yeah, he will. But, you know, if he's not comfortable with that, then fair play.
He's stabbing eating
He
disorder.
doesn't want to be compared to The Rock.
That's actually possibly true.
If you want to be compared to The Rock, you look back at The Rock in his early career, he had some big-ass man titties.
Oh,
And then
yeah, he had some surgery, right? Didn't I hear he had surgery? No?
Yeah, boob reduction surgery.
Oh, yeah, good for him.
Yeah, Roman has real. He has real potential, but what they're doing with him right now, it isn't working.
No, they're trying to fit him into their baby face mold. You know, like even in the matches, they're trying to have him wrestle like Cena, where you know he has to come from behind. And
But the best.
I should probably because I've got a kind of a bad rap about what I think about Dolph Ziggler. So let me clarify what I mean by what I said about Roman isn't working. He's getting big pops, but for the booking that he's getting, he should be the biggest thing in the company the way he's been booked. What I mean by it's not working is he's not getting the reaction that is commensurate with the kind of mega push to the moon that he's gotten.
I think if he swapped this gimmick to what we've just said, he'd get Austin Rock-esque kind of pops.
Well, it seems
Talk
like
that well though.
it seems like we've already started to turn on him.
I won't say Austin Rock kind of pops. I'll say Triple H returning in 2002 kind of pop.
That's a one-time thing though.
Yeah, he should be getting that all the time.
That one night when he came back in MSG.
Yeah, that one night.
Yeah, that's one of the loudest pops I've ever heard.
Yep.
You know, even if you just put him at like a Punk level, you know, or a Daniel Bryan level, you know, he should be there.
Okay, in theory then, if Reigns comes back, Royal Rumble, who does he face? Does he win, or who does he feud with?
Have him win it. Have him be the surprise entrant. You know, just like Cena and Edge before him. You know, he's a surprise entrant and he wins it.
Okay, but then what about Daniel Bryan?
It sounds weird, but what I would actually like to say is now that Cena has lost to Lesnar, if you have him become obsessed with the idea that he can beat Lesnar for the title, and then you have Cena as the last man in the Rumble, and you have Reigns versus Cena at the Rumble, Reigns goes over.
Are you suggesting that Cena wins the Royal Rumble again?
No, I just suggested that Reigns comes in and wins.
Oh, you meant goes over. I thought you meant like goes over the top rope.
No, I meant that Cena being obsessed and everything, you know, he then loses and he goes, I wouldn't say, no, not even crazy, but, you know, it then leads to him versus Cena versus Roman at Elimination Chamber.
Why?
And then who does Cena feud with for that last month going into WrestleMania?
Yeah, we've seen that people that feud with John Cena aren't turning out too well, you know, in the past 8 months. So, yeah, it's best to just keep Roman away from him. You know, because it did wonders for Bray Wyatt. So, yeah,
there was one guy that did well coming off of a feud with John Cena, and that was Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, it was Daniel Bryan. Look how good that turned out for him.
Well, you can't help that he got injured, though. I mean, come on.
I think Cena did it on purpose. Swerve.
He did. He did. In his backstage politics.
Yep. Dropped him on his head with his backstage politics.
Yep, he did.
He did that or planned to do something and it didn't turn out right, a la Wade Barrett.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
Speaking
of Barrett, when do we see Barrett being back?
After December.
Yeah, bring him back on the Rumble.
Back to at least December.
I think they're going to bring him back for the UK tour.
He is also going to win the Rumble.
No, he's not going to win. No, he's definitely not going to win the Rumble.
Kurt Angle, Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan are all going to win the Royal Rumble.
Going to be a 4-way winner.
They're going to be co-winners of the Royal
I have
Rumble.
no desire to see Kurt Angle back in WWE.
I do purely so that he can put Rusev over, or possibly at Mania beat Rusev, because, you know.
I don't want to see him anywhere in the ring.
You see what I did there? You see what I did there? Co-winners of the Royal Rumble, like co-main eventers. You know? See what
I
I did there?
did hear that.
I would like to see where the Royal Rumble winner does not get the Mania shot.
I would love to see it where, actually, yeah.
That destroys the pay-per-view, though.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
figure out something else for it.
It makes the whole Royal Rumble null and void.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just have it be for something else, though. At least 1 year.
I think Reigns should pull a Miz. Why don't
Stay on the outside.
and hang out until like the last moment? Cena thinks he wins the Rumble. Reigns comes in from behind and dumps him over the edge.
Superman punch him
It's
over the edge.
totally out of character for what they're building.
Totally out of character for what we were building.
That's great. We're
To be fair, it'd be great if they made it look like Reigns wasn't doing it on purpose.
Yes.
Because what you then do is you have someone take out Reigns, then Cena takes them out. Cena thinks he's won. He starts celebrating. Reigns gets back in, takes him out, and Cena's devastated.
Okay. We've all spoken.
Okay.
We've all spoken about Reigns. Where does Daniel Bryan fit into this?
Depends if he can wrestle again.
Yeah.
Healthy,
Yeah.
Let's go in
you
the
can't rely
establishment.
on him.
let's establish that he probably can, for the sake of this. Where does he fit into the Royal Rumble plans?
He gets eliminated.
He gets eliminated
It's eliminated.
by Seth Rollins.
By Kane. He comes out number 1, Kane's number 2, Kane eliminates him.
I'd actually like to see
Kane's
Daniel
awesome.
Bryan versus Seth Rollins.
I would too.
Hashtag Kane makes everything better.
Hashtag Kane ruined everything.
Although I wouldn't mind seeing, Brian against Dean Ambrose either.
Doesn't Daniel Bryan have a title shot automatically?
I can't-
Nobody cares about continuity.
Oh, okay. Because I guess technically The Rock has a number 1 continued status as well.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
So
You definitely don't want to. You definitely don't want to put. You don't want to put Bryan in the ring with Brock Lesnar right now.
but guys, you can't forget that Vacant has a number 1 contendership spot.
Shut up, Chris.
No, you could just plug Bryan right back into a feud with the Authority. It's as easy as that.
Yeah. It's boring, but it's
Yeah, it's boring, but
Could
until he gets
you-
his legs under him.
Can
I
you
was-
see Daniel Bryan beating Brock Lesnar?
No.
I don't even want him in the ring with him.
I can't
Not
see.
with how fragile Bryan may be. No.
I don't want Daniel Bryan back. There you go. There's
Yeah.
one of my
Um,
unpopular opinions.
Yeah, I'm with you for his own health and safety. Agreed.
I'd love to see more as a trainer in the performance center.
Chris,
Yeah.
let me interrupt you. Oh, wait a minute, Craig. Now you made the point. We're assuming that Daniel Bryan is healthy, man. You're the one that came up with the idea.
I'm cool with him being healthy, and for the sake of that argument with the Royal Rumble, he can come back and blah blah blah. I'm saying I don't want him back. Full stop.
I'm gonna bionic elbow you, man. I'm
He
gonna
just
drop a
pulled a
bionic elbow
Russo.
on you.
That was a Russo swerve. That's what that was.
I'm a Russo swerve everything.
Snow globe.
I think that his wrestling days are done, to be honest.
I hope they are.
Tell us how you really feel.
I will. I genuinely don't like Daniel Bryan. I never did. I think the yes thing at WrestleMania was good. It was a great moment. But I don't like Daniel Bryan. And I got yelled at by a customer in my shop for that today. So I'm okay with that.
I think that Bryan was overhyped. But I wouldn't necessarily say he's bad.
I don't think Bryan was hyped at all.
Yeah, his was
I think
the most organic rise we've ever seen.
Yeah, Daniel Bryan was put where he was put by the fans. He was not hyped at all.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it was the fans that ruined him afterwards. When the whole yes movement thing became huge and ridiculous.
Yeah, I can agree. That's what.
Yeah, he got over. He got over with one word, but hey, he got over.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
You don't see many people get over with one word. That's a thing.
Yeah, I'm all for. See, I like Daniel Bryan because of the sort of everyman thing that he represented. I like that. That's an archetypal, very basic, very classic pro wrestling thing. If you're saying that you don't like him because he's not great on the mic or because he's small, I can buy any of that. I'm okay with people who say they don't like Daniel Bryan.
Can I just say something? No. And I've noticed this, is that even with Punk being gone as long as he has been, you still hear the same Punk chants. The last little while, I've noticed that it kept him kind of in the storyline with that awful storyline that they had going. You don't, at least I haven't noticed, maybe somebody else has, but I haven't noticed a whole lot of yes chants.
During
Not too
the
many.
Bella segment this week, there was a couple of no chants, but that was it.
Yeah, they've kind of just eliminated all mention of him. So
Yeah, after that horrific a fair storyline. God, that was terrible.
That whole storyline was heading to Claire Lynch territory.
That was
Yeah.
typical Vince thinking he knows what the audience wants to see, and no.
And it landed like a sick duck.
That was very visual. But yeah,
It was very specific.
He's not Steve Austin. You know, Daniel Bryan's not a guy you're gonna come out and have him entertain the audience without being able to wrestle. So much of what made Daniel Bryan entertaining is what he does in the ring. He's not a talker. You know, and I think they tried to do an Austin type thing with him, and that's just not Bryan.
Yeah, I worry that when he comes back, if he comes back, that they're going to obviously tell him to cut down his moveset. I think that's going to limit him and make him less interesting than he was.
Well, he's gonna have to do that anyway. If he does come back, you know, you're not gonna see those suicide dives and stuff like that. He just can't.
Yeah, he's the one guy that can totally just revamp his moveset and just become a chain wrestler. You know, someone that's just going to out wrestle you. You're not going to see the flat back drop kicks or the suicide dives or the headbutts. You know, he's the one guy that's smart enough and able enough to do that and make it believable.
I agree 100%. If there was anybody who you say, hey, look, there's 8 moves you can't do, I think Daniel Bryan is probably that one guy. If you took 8 moves away from Roman Reigns, he couldn't wrestle. I mean, there'd be no match left.
He'd be in the minuses. He wouldn't even have a pin. He wouldn't have a continental tie. He'd have nothing.
Oh man, you want to talk about weird pins? What was it with Cameron last week? The split pin, but she was pinning Naomi while she was on her front.
Oh, well, yeah, pinning
That
her
was
on her back.
bad decision making. That was.
Oh, it was awful.
That's someone that should never be on, TV.
That was the most basic of mistakes. That was the most basic mistake you can possibly make in the world.
Right. Let's Rensis. Let's hear. I want an unpopular opinion from everyone this week, because we can. Rensis, what is your unpopular opinion for this week? I've been looking forward to this.
I already gave it. It's AJ is just too small. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. She's really technically sound, and she's savvy, and she's worked really hard, and all of that other stuff, but she's just too small.
I was blunt and to the point. I think there's probably quite a few people out there that agree with you. I personally am one of them. I'm not saying I don't like small wrestlers, but I think there are a lot of small wrestlers out there that are just too unbelievable to even stand in the ring. And as much as I love the guy, Rockstar Spud is definitely one of them.
Yep.
I like Spud a lot, but he literally is a baby potato. He's not even like a roast potato.
He is a spud. There you go.
He is a spud, and as much as I like his suits, we have a gentleman in Canada by the name of Don Cherry who did it first and does it better.
Ouch.
True,
Chris,
true.
Can we hear your unpopular opinion of the week?
Vince needs to step aside and hire a new writing staff because they're all bloody terrible.
No, that's a popular opinion, Chris. We all want that.
Justin Gabriel is awesome and highly underrated, and he needs to have more time on the damn show.
That's an unpopular opinion. Well done.
Well, like I said, there's that picture going around of him doing the stuff with the bunny. That was better than a lot of guys. But, you know,
I think being back in NXT did him good for a while.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Let's just put him in a tag team again and let him go. Krista, what is your unpopular opinion for this week?
Ziggler having the IC title again. That was totally pointless. You might as well have just left it on The Miz.
Agreed, actually.
It was dumb. Like, why? Why do that?
Miz will do better with the title at this point. I used to be a big fan of Ziggler, but I'm at the point where I don't care.
Yeah, Ziggler's also gotten stale. Like, the whole show-off persona, he's been doing that for a few years, and it's stale. He oversells, and he's just, and I like the guy, don't get me wrong, I think he does well in the ring, but he's stale, and they did the title no favors by dropping it to Miz one night and then dropping it back to Ziggler the next night. So the only thing I can think of is that something's going on with the Miz and he can't do the title run.
Yeah.
So you've arrived, Skeletor. Do you want to give us your unpopular opinion of the week?
On the Ziggler thing? Alright, I was very surprised by him winning back the IC title, but I don't really have a problem with it. Like it was a good thing that it surprised me. I didn't expect it. Usually, sometimes you do need to pass the title back and forth a bunch just to show that the title can change hands at any time, at any place, and any match is important, and that's something they need to do every now and then, which they've kind of done with this Miz Ziggler run, where they've changed the belt 4 times in 2 months or something.
They just did it with Barrett, didn't they?
Well, Barrett got hurt.
But doing it the night after.
Yeah, the night after thing.
That's just
I don't
not.
know,
They should have left it a week or something, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they probably could have built it up better by putting the rematch out another 2 weeks and then do an in between. I don't know what their plan is. I'm gonna have to wait.
They have a plan?
They might. I don't know. They've surprised me before on both not when they don't have one and both when they do somehow have one.
If they don't know what they're doing with letting it hand us out, I doubt they know what they're doing with the IC title.
Probably.
I don't know. They surprise me sometimes. I mean, I love that they let Damien Sandow carry around the little replica belt. That cracked me up when he came out with it, even though I knew it was coming.
Damien Sandow doing the figure 4 leg lock on no one outside the ring.
Beautiful. Damien Mizdow is one of my favorite things going. It's just
So you like the idea of having a stunt double?
I do. It's silly, but
how would you feel about having a stunt double?
Reality.
Yeah.
They'd have to be pretty depressed though to keep up with you. Yeah.
Yeah, because I did look into this and I did see what was going on with. On my ride back home, I did look over.
I demand that we have some kind of Skeletor versus Skeletor match at some point.
I think
No.
Paul might beat me at impersonating me.
Kind of sad.
I've got a sore throat today, so I can't really do it.
Lips. Let's hear yours then. What's your unpopular opinion of the week?
My unpopular opinion of the week is that I do not want to see Kurt Angle here or there. I do not want to see Kurt Angle anywhere. I do not want to see him in a wrestling ring. That's basically it.
Do you want to see him in a house?
I do not want to see him in a house. I do not want to see him with a mouse. I don't want to see him anywhere. You know what, Kurt? You're one of the best of all time. But I do not want to see you in a ring with Rusev. I don't want to see you toting the American flag. I don't want to see any of that. Just retire. Your body is a mess. Your mind is even a worse mess.
When was Angle ever actually legitimately a pro-America, love everyone guy?
When he won a gold medal with a broken freaking neck.
In real life, yes. I meant on television, but yeah.
When he won a gold medal with a when he debuted.
When he debuted.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
they turned it fast enough that I forgot that he was originally supposed to be, because they turned it to him being obnoxious about it, like, really fast.
Yeah, he's always been obnoxious about it, which makes it awesome. Like when he would bring a chair into the ring, and after he'd win a match, he'd stand on the chair and pretend he was on the Olympic stage. It was
Oh,
great.
all those terrible, like, award ceremonies he had for himself, I loved all that stuff. All that stuff was
Right.
amazing.
Right, and the memories are great, but I do not want to see him current day in a WWE ring wrestling anyone.
No, I don't need to see, like, half robot Kurt Angle in the ring.
Yeah, because that's all that I saw on Twitter on Sunday night was people clamoring for Kurt Angle. No, you really don't want that. You don't want to see Kurt Angle die in the ring.
Okay. Well, here is my opinion of the week. Fans are ruining the product for me. I am so sick of signing onto Twitter and seeing some idiot talking about how he feels the product is too real, or he's afraid that the product is too fake. How could you ever buy into the product? Now, some of you may have noticed this week that I tweeted, how can we take John Cena seriously when all he ever wears is cartoon clothing? Well, the fact is, John Cena's a walking billboard. Get over it, move on, he sells money. But guys like Kane and Abyss and big guys like this, they're meant to be dominating, they're meant to be overbearing. Stop being a bitch when they get beaten. This happens. Guys have to lose in order to make other guys look good. Now, my favourite example would be fans ruining a product for themselves and myself definitely has to be Mark Henry. I saw someone tweet out, Mark Henry's a disgrace to the American flag. He shouldn't have been allowed to wear it, and WWE disgraced the flag even further by having him lose to a Russian. Right. Not only is he Bulgarian, he's Bulgarian residing from Russia. If you're going to complain about the product, don't fuck up that. Goodbye TV PG. Essentially, if you want to moan about the product, that's fine. You're entitled to. But do it where no one else can see you. Or don't be so abrupt about it and complain about the same shit every week. The fact is, it's a TV show, problems happen, people occur, and storylines move on. You are all wrong. Shut up.
I hope that guy who said the disgracing American people thing was kidding, like I was kidding when I said freedom died yesterday.
Oh no, he was serious because he went on a rant about that.
Okay, I'd just like to jump in here. First off, what we've said about all this stuff, yeah, fans are being idiots. It's entertainment. Don't take it seriously. Don't, they're disgracing the fact. Well, get over it. It's a TV show. That's all it is.
It's really me, damn it. Did I not just say this?
And I'd also like to jump in on a very big tangent here. Mark Henry needs to feud with Sheamus and take the US title.
No, Rusev needs it to turn it into the Russian heavyweight title.
I want to see Rusev Sheamus. That would actually be interesting.
Rusev with the U.S. title would be gold.
Yeah, but also the friggin' brutal-ass Sheamus match would be amazing. Like every Sheamus match basically is to me.
Oh, okay. I've just read this, and I'm going to continue on my tangent for just a second. Do you know what? The fans that think they can book things better than everyone else, right? You can book as much as you want, and you can plan as much as you think. No matter what we say on here, no matter what anyone else says on any other product, it might sound great on paper, it might sound great coming through your earphones when you listen to a podcast. So you try to get that to translate to TV. You know nothing about it until you actually book TV.
Better yet, let's see you try and get half those ideas past Vince.
For instance, I'll just go out on a whim here. Lita versus Michelle McCool in an ambulance match. It should never happen.
Those are the two greatest women's workers of all time.
Right? It should never happen. Let's not put them in an ambulance match because it's not exciting. The only way they should be in an ambulance match is if Lita has actually broken her neck again and they're going to an ambulance for the hospital. That's the only way they should ever end up in a match in the ambulance, right? If they want to go serious and you think your story is good, why not send it to someone? Send it to someone that can actually listen to you and think, maybe this is a good idea. Maybe you should go to college and study this. Maybe that's the line of work you should go in if you feel you can make a difference to the product.
And what Alana, that was a really terrible lead. If you don't understand the real people involved here, you're gonna miss the point a lot of the times too. I may love Dolph Ziggler, and I don't. I think Dolph Ziggler is just good. I don't think he's a great performer. But let's say, for argument's sake, I love Dolph Ziggler. I think he's incredible. He's a great athlete. He's got the look. Blah blah blah. What if behind the scenes there's a real problem? What if the people who are making decisions don't trust him? They don't think that he's trustworthy. Then it doesn't matter how good he is out there in front of the cameras. If they are afraid that he might flip out or he might flake or whatever the case, they can't put him in that spot, no matter how good we may think he is. And there are some things that we're never going to know about these performers. They are human beings. It's not fantasy football, dude. They're real people that have to do these roles.
Oh yeah,
That's exactly it, because we only learn so much from dirt sheets, and dirt sheets only tell you one side of the story. They never tell you the whole damn thing.
And sometimes they're just pure bullshit.
There are some people backstage that I can imagine are complete douchebags, and that's probably why they don't get pushed.
It's obviously Cali, right?
I don't even know who the hell we're on about at this point. I'm just saying it in general. There's some people backstage that are probably douchebags. There's some people backstage that are probably very, very nice people, and that's probably why they get pushed. I mean, Cena outside of the ring looks like a nice guy, which is probably half the reason he's been pushed as hard as he has.
I would never push Dolph Ziggler just because he made his Twitter account name @HeelZiggler.
Yep. Completely ruins the illusion.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing? Like, I would have, that would have made me so angry.
I wouldn't push Ryder purely because he complains.
Yeah,
Would
that
he
too.
complain had he been pushed?
Well, I actually went onto the WWE's corporate website to see what the qualification is to be a writer.
Oh, it's like 5 years experience in TV or prior, like...
Yep. And you
learning.
have to have knowledge of the product.
Yeah.
Now, whether the creative actually had knowledge of the product when they signed on remains to be seen. I did notice that it was lacking love of the product. You had to know the product, but you didn't particularly need to care about it. That's what I took from it. But you do need a lot of experience. My thought, though, is that if you were a successful writer in TV and you wanted to be taken seriously, why would you be writing for sports entertainment?
There you go, guys. For those of you who heard it, you can go and apply on their corporate website and look up the job qualifications. Because if you think you're good enough to rant online about how your show's better, blah, blah, blah. I saw someone book Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose in a triple threat match for the World Heavyweight title after Roman Reigns had destroyed Brock Lesnar. This was at WrestleMania, by the way, all in one show. If you think that show's good enough, why don't you go post it to the corporate website and see what they think? You'll get shot down on time.
Because they will laugh you out the building because that's a bad idea.
Hold on, you read that?
That's, or they steal your idea.
That was my idea. I'm glad someone read that. Oh, thanks, man.
Bad idea.
I had the idea. I made the suggestion to a writer from Future Report, and I will mention this, that at some point I really thought that, and this would have been good, that they could have run with the idea that 3MD could have been their answer to Spinal Tap.
Yep. Do you know what I think? I will honestly say, hand on heart, I've wrote some ideas that I thought were phenomenal. But I would never force feed them and say, this is better than their product, why are they doing this and not my story?
Can I say real fast that you do not actually have to love something that you are writing for it to be decent? Like, Alan Moore has written a million good superhero comics, and nowadays, at least, he talks about how shitty superhero comics are and how much he hates them and their audience.
Everything he's ever done, yeah.
Me, someone who does that is basically slapping the face of everybody he wrote for.
Oh, he
You don't
is.
have to, you don't have to love a job to do it. So.
But he did. He wrote some best stuff ever stuff. but he also thinks everyone who read it is an idiot, and he hates them. So
I hate you. You had to watch them.
At least for me, that I would probably never buy anything he put out because of that.
yeah, he's pretty terrible.
That's a fraudulent human being who doesn't even believe the vitriol that he's spewing. He doesn't believe that those people are idiots. He's just bitter. That's all that is.
Either way.
I've heard so many terrible stories of people going like a con or just doing something and meeting him.
It's a work. That's all.
Oh yeah, he's playing the long game with his heel persona.
Yep.
It's like 20 years now.
Life is a work. That's it. It is.
Like Mark Madden, similar situation. I don't believe him for 1 second that he doesn't like wrestling. I don't believe him.
Right, guys. Let's cut this short then, and that's 1 o'clock. So we have reached our 2-hour peak. A big thank you to everyone who got involved, and hopefully you can all join us again next week for another lowdown. Be sure to catch everyone on Twitter, and be sure to drop us your thoughts by sending us a message.
Quick shout-outs before this ends.
And subscribe on iTunes.
We do have the podcast on. Is it on iTunes now?
Rate 5 stars, and then go watch Paul's Wrestling Buddies and Nitrocast.
Don't forget to follow us all on Twitter as well.
There you go, guys. We'll give everyone a shout out on Twitter, and we are